Now I'd like to invite the Honourable MLA, Dr. Jon Gerrard, to offer his remarks as a former Creative Foundation keynote speaker.
Thank you, Gary. Welcome, everybody. It's a real honor to be here. Having been at one of the early Creative Foundation events, it's an honor to be invited by ESAW. ESAW, I think it's important to know, as many of you do, is a rather extraordinary individual. Early in his career in Nigeria, he was recognized for his extraordinary artistic talent. As sometimes happens with somebody who's extraordinarily innovative and brilliant, it wasn't always well received by some people in the establishment. And Yisa ended up coming to the center of North America, to Winnipeg, and we are very glad you did. Very quickly, Yisa rose in the artistic world here. Within a very short period of time of his arrival from Nigeria, he was the president of the Manitoba Society of Artists, and he was showing his leadership qualities very quickly and very dramatically. And of course, he established the Creative Foundation. And the Creative Foundation has been and will be critically important in inspiring young people to be creative. It's now 20 years, and we celebrate those 20 years. Yisa, it's important to note, from the center of North America, has had shows all over North America, New York, Chicago, I think in California. He's well known all over the world. Naomi and I, in February, were in an art gallery in Tanzania, and there was one of Yisa's paintings. Only when we went to look at it, it had somebody else's name on it. And Naomi, in particular, being an artist, recognized this so quickly and let Yisa know. And this was tracked down, and the issue of fraud was addressed. But it tells you something. When you go into an art gallery in Tanzania, and there is somebody copying a master artist, Yisa, because they appreciate the quality of his work. Today, we live in a world with incredible challenges, with climate change, with inequality, with poverty, with so many other things happening. In Kenya, when we were there in January, we heard of extraordinary high rates of unemployed young people. We have to be conscious in a global world of what's happening elsewhere. Because if we are not addressing these issues which are happening elsewhere, we will have conflict and strife and people as refugees all over the place. We need a world where people feel secure and have opportunities, whether it is here or whether it is anywhere. The Creative Foundation, on their website, as I looked at it, talked about how the foundation is inspiring young people. And Ina, who is here, has told me a few minutes ago she is here as a young person to be inspired. So we'll try and do that. There are mentioned the number of people who have been inspired by the foundation for a variety of careers, doctors, engineers, teachers, and so on. But interestingly, Yisa, there's no mention of politicians. And I want to point out that, in fact, as Harry Feldman will know, when you're in politics, it is extraordinarily important to be a creative thinker. And people often come to politicians when they have exhausted any other option. Right? And so we have to be there, and we have to figure out how we're going to help people with an extraordinary range of problems. My day this morning began with a message at about 7 o'clock from a woman in River Heights who'd had her car broken into 3 times in the last little while. What was she going to do? How could she approach that? I called her up before breakfast, and we were talking away, and we'll see what we can do. I then went into the legislature. We've just had an election. Gary will know something about the tough negotiations which we have to go through with people of other political parties, and we're doing that at the moment. From there, I was mentoring a federal candidate, Kathy Schofield Singh, who's running in Dauphin, who's a nurse practitioner, not with a lot of political experience, and trying to long distance give her a few clues. Then dealing with a situation in Portage-la Prairie where a retired 70-year-old woman was almost killed by her daughter with a severe mental health problem, and there's some issues in terms of addressing it. And so I was called. Just after that, I got a message from a young Indigenous woman: please call as soon as possible. I'm in big difficulty. She was in Carberry. And she had a life-threatening, very rare medical condition, and she has a bacterial infection, and I was trying to help her get the attention that she needed as quickly as possible. And then I attended the One Basin, One Governance conference, which is going on in Winnipeg, talking about the Lake Winnipeg Basin. And there I met a fascinating individual by the name of Bob Sanford. Now, he's probably about 70 now, but when he was about 20, he was walking on a glacier in the mountains, and he fell down a hole in the glacier. And if you fall down a hole in the glacier, your chances of surviving are very small. But fortunately, he went right down to the bottom, and he was able to walk out underneath the glacier and survived. He's now an international water expert, and he provides insight into what's happening from his and other observations. He told the conference about how the Columbia ice fields are losing 5 to 8 meters of ice each year at the moment. Very dramatic. How in the Arctic, the melting of the permafrost is now happening at a rate that only a few years ago was not predicted to occur until 2070. And he talked about the ice caps of Greenland, which are now melting at a rate which only a few years ago were predicted by the IPCC panel to be not melting till 2090. This is an extraordinary challenge that we're facing with climate change. We need creative, artistic, artificial intelligence, all these things to save our planet. Thank you, Yisa, for bringing us all together, for stimulating everyone to be creative and to inspire our young people. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Dr. Jon Gerrard. I would now like to introduce to you Honorable Deputy Mayor Marcus Chambers to bring greetings on behalf of the City of Winnipeg.